So, welcome everybody to the Pure Joy podcast. Today I'm here with Katelyn Louise, and for those of you guys who don't know, she's my partner in crime in Pure Joy Planet. We do all of our love camps together and our retreats, and we've been working together for about 5 years. And we are going to today talk about our three pillars of health, with the three pillars, the Pure Joy way of healthy eating and living. And so we're going to cover today our first pillar. This is number one of a three-part series. And we also are going to get a little bit into why it's important to have a health coach and how accountability and coaching is really essential for success. And we're actually going to give you statistics on why that is. Hi, Kate.
Hi. It's going to be fun.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about the three different pillars. Do you want to introduce the pillars for everybody?
Yeah, so this is like our Pure Joy method, like you mentioned. It's basically what we implement with all of our coaching clients for our Keto Gone Green coaching program. And it's something that we feel is lacking from a lot of people's diet protocols. Like we really try and stay far away from the word diet and implement these three strategies that are way beyond just the food that we eat, that we really see people shifting long term. And this not just going on a crash diet or trying to change their health in a really fast way, but this is something that's sustainable long term. So our first pillar is all about balanced nutrition. And we do follow a plant-based ketogenic style of eating for our coaching program, but we really do it in a much more balanced way. And we're going to get really deep into that today. But do you want me to talk about the three pieces?
Yeah, all three pillars, like what they are, and then we'll just go back and focus on the first pillar, which is balanced nutrition.
Sure, yeah. The second one is satisfaction or no deprivation. So we really believe that food should be satisfying long term. So that's why we always have things that are crave worthy. We have pizzas, pasta, cookies, all of the delicious, amazing foods that people, love and crave, but they're in a very much more nourished and healthy way. And then our third pillar is mindfulness, or what we call mindset, which is all around, our worthiness around food, our worthiness around being healthy, our mindset as far as like meditation practice, how we feel about our bodies and how we feel about, our lives in general, and how that correlates with how healthy or not healthy we are.
Yeah, I love all three of these pillars. They're all so important. And what I think people do is sometimes they forget. They get really into like just the food, and they forget that there's so much more to it. And like you see these people on these chicken and broccoli diets, and they're doing all their bodybuilding and everything. And then they focus so much on like the deprivation and the restriction. And they aren't necessarily getting balanced nutrition. So that's why number one is balanced nutrition for us, and why we really feel it's important to talk about what balanced nutrition is and why it's like how to balance your nutrition. So we'll get a little bit into that today. So the first thing about balanced nutrition is, and the focus that Katelyn and I have, that the Pure Joy Planet way, is about getting your body alkaline. And a lot of people, you'll hear it, like we really are advocates of the keto diet, but we're advocates of a green keto. And our program, we changed it from Love Camp to Keto Gone Green, because we feel that adding as many vegetables, especially green foods, and that's not just lettuce and salad, things like superfoods, which we can talk about today, why that's so important to get your body alkaline. So disease cannot live in an alkaline environment. So think about a swimming pool. When you test the alkalinity for a pool, there's a scale of 0 to 14. Now, humans need to be around 7.4. Well, exactly at 7.4 is what our blood alkalinity needs to stay at for us to stay alive. So what happens with a lot of people when they start eating, like let's say a regular keto diet, or what we like to call a dirty keto diet, like they're going to McDonald's and they're throwing out the bun, but they're still eating the disgusting meat and cheese, or they're eating tons of meat, which is very acidic. And we're not saying not to eat meat at all, but like the more green foods you add in and the more superfoods you get in, the more alkaline your body becomes. And so we need to be at 7.4. So what happens is if we're eating hamburgers all day long and keto foods, but it's dirty keto, like just unhealthy animal products, which is a lot of people get into, the body becomes acidic. So it's not that your body cannot become acidic. It can. It's just that the blood is scrambling to survive. So what it does is it starts robbing calcium from your bones and minerals from your bones, because the bones are what hold all our minerals. And if you're not remineralizing your body with food and with supplements, we're really into supplements as well, supplementation, but not like huge amounts. Like, I feel like it's ridiculous to try and cram a bunch of supplements into your body that it can't use. But certain supplements. But if we're doing this on a regular basis, drinking our green juices and eating healthy salads with other things on them, and getting our spirulina and our green powders in, our body becomes more alkaline, and then we don't get sick. Like, really, it's so rare for me to ever get sick at all. And I have hacks for that as well. But also feeling like, people ask me over and over again, like, where do you get all your energy? You have so much energy. Like, I have more energy than people 20 years younger than me. I really do. And sometimes I drive people crazy because I have mental energy, I have clarity, I have body energy. And it's because I'm alkaline. I know that for sure. And it's because of my diet. So
Mhm.
you want to jump in on this, Katelyn, and talk about like how you balance yourself?
Definitely. And I just want to touch too on, keto it has gotten a pretty bad rap, and just debunking the reason why we do keto. And really, our focus is on getting rid of sugar and getting rid of bread, getting rid of a lot of foods. So we look at this more balanced nutrition approach as an elimination diet. So we're eliminating things like processed sugar, processed ingredients, beer, bread. Have you ever heard of someone who's nutrient deficient because they stopped eating bread? Like, there are these inflammatory foods that we're really trying to get rid of, and that helps the body become more alkaline, and it helps the body balance. And with balanced nutrition, there's a lot of wiggle room there, as far as like, we have our protocol, which is very green, it has lots of nutrient dense foods in it, but there's room for people to really find their unique rhythm. Because once we start eliminating some of these foods, especially gluten, sugar, processed foods, rancid oils, canola oil, vegetable oils, people really start to clean out, and they're able to listen to their body a bit better. So, when if you've been eating something for a long time and then you stop, you realize, oh man, maybe that food wasn't serving me. So I feel like that's also a really big part of the foundation of the balanced nutrition, is just cutting out all the crap so we can start to hear and become more intuitive with what our unique body nutrition needs.
I totally agree. I feel like what you're not eating is almost more important than what you are eating. And just like you said, like eliminating all these acid foods. And, I would start, if you're wondering where to start, like start with white foods, things like white sugar, bread, just all bread, not even like with that, who cares if it's whole wheat, just all bread. And then, but things like white rice, like maybe if you're not ready to eliminate grains in the beginning, which we actually do believe is going to create the most healthy, vibrant body, is a body that doesn't consume grains or consumes them on a very minimal basis. But that doesn't mean you need to start there. Like, keep your quinoa and your brown rice and a few things in moderation, but getting rid of these white foods, including white potatoes. And that's and all, like you mentioned, Katelyn, the oils. So people might not know this, but like if you go to a place like Whole Foods, their whole salad bar, all the foods that they're serving, if you read the ingredients, is canola oil. So, I mean, this is big talk in our health industry now, that like people are really kind of angry that a place like Whole Foods is using so much canola oil, because there's not a whole lot of places we feel we can go and eat out when we're traveling. And the one place you feel like, oh, I can count on going to a place like Whole Foods and getting my meal. But then when you start reading the labels, you're like, everything has canola oil in it. And that is actually, it sounds like, oh, what's the big deal? But canola oil is so highly processed and it's so inflammatory. Your joints, like if I ate canola oil, I would wake up the next day with my hands puffy, my joints achy. It doesn't take long. My brain just foggy. And who wants that? Like, let's really get clear on why we're consuming food. There is pleasure in food. Of course, we love to have pleasure while we're eating. But the number one reason food exists for humans is for nourishment. So really checking in with yourself, is this food going to nourish me on a cellular level? Is this choice going to nourish me? And if the answer is no, like, how can I make a few tweaks to make it nourishing? And one of them involves making our recipes, which, you know, that's great. Like if you have our recipes and you've been making our keto bread, which is just nut and seed based and coconut based, great. But what if you're not there yet? Like how can you just today start making choices that are going to serve you better?
Mhm.
And I would say starting with looking at the ingredients in your food. And like you said, Katelyn, going back to whole food, like if you're eating at home, like steaming up some broccoli and using either olive oil or real organic butter or ghee on it if you're not vegan. We're no longer like advocating 100% vegan diet. We do with our first month of coaching say, go on a plant-based, no animal product diet just so that you can clean out the system and get the acidity out of you. But then once you found your balance with that, like you can add in the animal products that you feel are going to nourish your body. And it's different for everybody. And we've been talking about that, Katelyn, like how every diet is like going to be a little bit different. And I don't even like using the word diet. Like every eating plan or just the way that you consume food is going to be a little bit different depending on your age, just your sex, your activity level, all of it.
Yeah, it's some of the experts are now saying diet is going to become obsolete because we all are coming from different backgrounds and everything. And I really think the main focus for us is the quality of the food. Like we're talking about organic foods. We're talking about foods that don't carry pesticides. That's why we're getting rid of this canola oil. We're talking about non-GMO foods so our bodies can actually uptake all of these great nutrients. So that's why we're not dogmatic about plant-based, but we are dogmatic about food quality. So if you are eating, butter, making sure it's grass-fed. If you are eating meats, making sure those are grass-fed or wild, or they're local, they're a good source for you. Because honestly, that is the biggest game changer. I mean, for example, one would be coffee. Like not all coffee is created equally, and we believe in a few companies that are doing coffee right. But how many people have said, oh, I can't drink coffee, I'm just jittery and I'm wired and I can't focus? And then, I've had people in my house that say that, and then I'm saying, okay, well, maybe just try this coffee. We use Keon coffee brand, which we can link all this in our show notes. But and then they drink it and they're like, wow, this is a huge difference. It's like night and day. So just one food is not the same as the other. One red pepper does not equal the next. If one's grown in a really eco-sustainable, good water, good, no pesticides, no fertilizer, any of that is very different from a conventional one. So focusing also too on the food quality.
Yep, and the source of where you're getting your food. But I want to get back to the coffee because I agree with you on that. I also drink the Keon coffee. We've decided out of all the coffees we've tried that this is the most high quality coffee. And what the reason it works better is because there's no mycotoxins in it. Now, mycotoxin just means a tiny toxin, and things like cashews and coffee and chocolate are known to have mycotoxins or mold. You can kind of put mold into the mycotoxin category. People like me who are very mold sensitive because I have mold in my blood just from getting exposed to it, we're even more sensitive. But you can tell the difference, like you're saying, Katelyn, drinking this coffee that you make at home in either a French press or do a pour over. But then there's one next level to this amazing coffee, which is like I do drink it black from time to time, but we call it our superwoman coffee or our superhero coffee, which means we're putting medicinal mushrooms into the coffee every day. Things like lion's mane. I do lion's mane, cordyceps, turkey tail. Those are the three main ones I'm adding in now on a regular basis. There's also things like reishi and chaga that you can add in. If you guys want to listen back to one of my very first podcasts I did, it's on the mushroom, on Jeff Chilton, who talks all about the amazing benefits of mushrooms. And we'll link that podcast in the show note as well. Even if you're listening to this on YouTube, we'll link it there. And so anyway, when you're adding these medicinal mushrooms into your coffee and the fat, so that's the trio, the triple threat or whatever you want to call it, the trifecta is the fat, the medicinal mushrooms, and the mycotoxin-free coffee.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on it right now. I fasted for 40 hours. I just came off of a dry fast and I hydrated with like a quart of water, like one of these big bottles. And then I had my coffee and I haven't had any food for 2 days and I feel so nourished from this just medicinal mushroom coffees in there. I mean, medicinal mushrooms in my coffee and then the fat. The other fat that we like, so the three fats that I like to rotate between is MCT oil and or coconut oil. And the MCT oil is basically coconut oil that's been separated, and MCT stands for medium chain triglyceride, which is brain food. But if you get the octane 8, which you can get now online, Bulletproof is a good source of it. That's a company. You can also find really good high quality brain. You look for the brain octane oil online. So I'll add 2 teaspoons of that in. Sometimes I'll add 1 or 2 teaspoons of olive oil in. I get a super high quality olive oil that I know is not fake oil. You have to watch out for fake cheap olive oils. Get it fresh pressed from a company you trust. I'm on a twice a year I get a shipment of olive oil from a company in California that's called Olive Press, and they press it there and then they ship it out to their member people first. So we get the freshest press. So doing your homework and your research on where the quality of your oils are. And then the third fat that I use is either ghee, which is grass-fed ghee, or I'm actually now making my own homemade butter from raw milk from a local company that I found in Bend, that you get a gallon of raw milk from their lovely cows that you see in the pasture, and it's just a small family farm. And then I turn it into butter. So that's exciting, and I'm using
That's
that in my coffee
awesome.
as well. So these are all brain foods. These are all going to be nourishing to you, and they're whole food.
Mhm.
They're from the earth. And so if you add that in with your medicinal mushrooms, and then whatever else you want to add in, like we recommend things like ashwagandha, and we teach all this in our course. So if you decide you want to do our keto gone green course, the next one's coming up in the spring, we'll put a link. But anyway, we feel like
Mhm.
that's an important way to start your day, and that's an important way to start your nourishment in your morning. And if you don't want to do coffee, do tea and add these things into it.
Yeah, we actually have this recipe on the website, which we'll make sure to link. It's called Superwoman Coffee. So we have the exact measurements there. But it's so key because nutrition just isn't about the food. It is about these other fungi and, the Chinese herbs and more of these balancing nutrient dense superfoods that we really, really love to add in. I don't know where I would be without some of my superfoods. I really do feel like they take nutrition to a whole new level because superfoods are just really condensed food, like they're foods that have a lot of condensed nutrients in them. So something like spirulina, that's like super high in protein, higher than any other vegetable there is, super high in magnesium and iron, like just these super dense where you need like, a couple teaspoons of something where you'd have to eat like a whole bowl of salad to get some of the same nutrients. So we really, really believe in superfoods as well as, supplements, but really getting it from the food, the superfoods, the medicinal mushrooms, all of that good stuff.
And spirulina, speaking of spirulina, like a lot of people ask if you are on a plant-based diet, and maybe it's like, for me, I'm still 80 to 90% plant-based, and like I'll add in maybe some, we have a natural grocers here that you can buy local family farmed eggs from, and I'll do 2 poached eggs from like a couple days, maybe 3 or 4 days a week, and then other tiny small animal product supplements. But spirulina is a huge source, if you are going to be 100% plant-based, of protein, and it's 60% protein by weight. But the great thing is it's 90% absorbable, and meat is usually, I think the statistics say, about 37% absorbable. So you need to eat way more meat products or animal products to get the same amount of protein as you could from spirulina. And then I love sometimes the story you tell about your dad and his success and your own success with spirulina, Katelyn.
Definitely. It's one of those superfoods that I feel so many people could benefit from. And I feel like everyone who knows me, I've gotten them onto spirulina. Just because for me, having autoimmune and going from super, super sick to now, I feel like I'm thriving way more than I ever have in my entire life. But these things like spirulina have really changed the microbiome in my gut. So these things are very healing for the gut. They provide, like you said, all the protein and iron. And for women, iron is such an important thing that it's really hard for us to get from plant sources. And from spirulina, it's just really easily absorbable as well. And for my dad, I got him on it, and I think that's like his absolute favorite food in the world. I don't know if he could go a day without it anymore, but he had cataracts, and he actually reversed his cataracts from the spirulina because it is such a good source of beta carotene, and it's just cellular regeneration. It's helping your body turn over cells, and yeah, it's one of my favorite things ever.
Yeah. And we recommend starting with a teaspoon and then working your way up to a tablespoon. Do you do more than a tablespoon, Caitlin? For you
Definitely
personally?
not. I feel like for a while I was, but a tablespoon is more than enough. And it's learning that these superfoods, since they're so concentrated, you really don't need a lot of them. And it's really important to start really slow because things
Yeah,
like spirulina, they can have a detox effect as well. So you don't want to be detoxing your body faster than it's healthy for it to do. So definitely. And
exactly.
I love Health Force still. It's one of my favorite companies. And Energy Bits is another one, and we'll be sure to link our favorites because, again, not as all spirulina is created equally, just like any of these other superfoods and our conventional veggies versus our organic veggies. If you open a spirulina and it smells like fish, which a lot of these just like cheaper varieties are, they're usually not the best quality, and sometimes you could be getting things like heavy metals and other ingredients in them. So really be sure to be careful on that.
Yeah, I did that actually. This has been like, wow, like probably 20 years ago, or over 10 years ago now, that I had this big jug of spirulina that I had gotten online. Like, I think from back then it was like vitacost.com. And I ordered it thinking, oh, I'm getting such a great deal. And my friend came over who was like 100% raw foodie. I was about 100% or close to it at the time too. And he had some spirulina in a smoothie and he goes, he didn't even know, like, he didn't see the jug because I had put it in a jar. And he goes, your spirulina tastes like sand. And I was like, oh, and I showed him the jar and he's like, yeah, that stuff's lame. So
Yeah.
since then I've only used Health Force, and even though it's more expensive, or Hawaiian spirulina is good as well, but we'll link those. And yeah, I love spirulina. But again, like you said, Caitlin, like if I haven't done it in a while, because I don't do it daily, even though I probably should, if I haven't done it for a while, like I'll get this weird ungrounded feeling, like of too muchness. If I do it, I'm like, oh, kind of. And if I take it late at night, I'll lay in bed and I'll actually see the spiral energy of the spirulina. Like my bed feels like it's spinning. So that's just my experience of it. But you want to take it in the early part of the day. And if you don't want to make a smoothie, which we do recommend it in a smoothie, and we'll talk about nourishing yourself through smoothies. But if you're someone that's like, I don't really want to eat breakfast, but I want to get this nourishment in, you can just take this and stir it into water and then
Mhm.
just drink the spirulina in water. And one of the great benefits of doing food like that is that you're getting, so when you take a capsule, yes, you're getting benefits from it, but when your tongue tastes the food, it
Yep.
sends a message to your brain of this is what this is, and you digest it and assimilate it better. And putting something like spirulina, a teaspoon of spirulina in water and just drinking it really quickly, like a cup of water, you're going to instantly absorb it into your cells, and you're just going to make it's more bioavailable that way, which means your body actually experiences it fully versus just passing it. Like if you take a capsule, like you may or may not absorb all of that.
Mm. It's so true. I feel like not very many people talk about this one key thing. Like, how many times have you heard, "Oh, I'm doing everything right. Like, I eat this way and I'm very strict on it, and I'm just not seeing the results that I want." And it's little things like this, like actually having an energetic relationship with what you're putting in, which we're so about. That's why our third pillar is mindfulness, but being mindful about what you're consuming and tasting the thing. Like spirulina might have a really strange taste to you at first, but something that you've never tasted before. The body loves that, as well as things like bitters. Like the body loves bitters, and our diets are so void of bitter foods that are so great for the same thing, cell regeneration and all of that good stuff that keeps our bodies balanced. So I love that, really tasting some of these superfoods and herbs. And
Yeah.
with the coffee, sometimes people will try the coffee and be like, wow, this is, it has this really earthy taste to it. But you start to get used to that, and your body starts to recognize those nutrients and what they're doing for you.
Like the medicinal mushrooms. Yeah, I've
Mhm.
had guests over and I'm like, do you want the mushrooms or no mushrooms? They're like, no mushrooms. And I feel like, oh God, you don't even know what you're missing. Like it's so
Yeah.
good. And then I start to like actually enjoy the taste of the, of the whatever mushroom I've got in there, like the turkey tail, which is kind of bitter. So I use like an eighth of a teaspoon, but it seems different without it, or the lion's mane, which actually tastes good. But and it
Yeah.
makes your coffee even frothier when you blend it because of the mushrooms kind of become frothy in there. And it sounds weird, but just you got to try it.
Yeah.
And then speaking of bitters and spirulina, I want to kind of segue in. So the way that we can experience spirulina and bitters, like, so lunch is my biggest meal of the day. I don't eat breakfast. This is just my routine. I have coffee, And I try and wait till like maybe 9 or 10 so I get the full 12 to 14 hours of just water, like what they call intermittent fasting. You can go longer, but I try and have my coffee like around 9 or 10 versus like 6 a.m. when I wake up. And that gives my body time just to be awake and alive. But then I don't have lunch till 2. So what I have like great base for lunch is things like you're saying, bitters, like arugula is amazing. I'm growing my own sprouts right now. I have clover sprouts growing, and actually I just put them in the fridge today. We have whole video courses on how to grow sprouts. There's so much available out there too on YouTube. So learn how to grow your own sprouts, your own kitchen gardens. That's going to be really important in nourishing yourself. The sprouts that you're growing in your own environment are going to get the mycobacteria that are in the air, the good bacteria, and that's going to give your body more information on where it's living. And we talk about that with sauerkraut as well. So a great salad could be like a foundation of bitter greens, like arugula, maybe some sprouts of different kinds, like rotate your sprouts. Broccoli sprouts are great. And then things like kale, but not too much kale. Maybe you can do our marinated kale salad, which we actually really love. Or if you're going to do raw kale, just chop it really fine. So you're not having to digest too much of that or chew it, because we don't really chew as well as we should. And then other greens are just like, they have like what's called super food or power greens. And it's like small pieces of kale and small like collards and things like that. Those are all considered bitters and bitter greens.
Mm-hmm.
And then I wanted to segue into sprinkling spirulina on your salad is a great way to get spirulina in your diet, because Katelyn, you and I, both of us really don't drink smoothies as often anymore. And I want to talk about that. But so a great way for me to get spirulina in my diet is my lunch, putting that there, or having a smoothie later in the day and putting spirulina in my smoothie, just not like at nighttime, but like maybe after lunch. But so yeah, just making your salad. But then if you're like, oh, it's winter and I don't want salad, do the greens as your foundation and then cook up your food, whatever it is. Poach your eggs or cook your mushrooms and onions, and like some of our different recipes where they're kind of like a skillet stir fry. And then put that onto your salad with your amazing dressing, which we have lots of great salad dressing recipes, which are olive oil based.
Mm-hmm.
And you can put vegetables and garlic and ginger and Himalayan salt, or actually now we use real salt. And I do want to get into the difference between the salts as well. There's so much to talk about. But yeah, so having these greens as a foundation is what I'm trying to say for a meal.
Yeah, and herbs. I wanted to mention that too. Herbs have so much dense nutrition. I would say they're almost like superfoods. Things like cilantro, parsley, dill, rosemary, thyme. All of these have so many antioxidants to them that are so healing for the body. And they actually, like rosemary, really helps with digestion. I think all of these play a part in stimulating our body to produce digestive enzymes. Also, they carry their own digestive enzymes. So they're actually, when we're adding these herbs and like the parsleys or basils and all that to our food, we're actually helping our body to digest and assimilate that food. So I see this time and time again with clients is they've never even used rosemary before, or they don't even know what thyme is, or they've kind of tasted, another herb, but they're not quite sure about it. It could ruin the thing. And then once you start trying these herbs, they change a salad into something that's so vibrant and delicious. Like
so
the
aromatic
green goddess dressing, which is like, I think it's cilantro, parsley, has some rosemary in there, zucchini, lemon, garlic, ginger. Like that is my favorite dressing, and it's mostly herbs that are blended into this delicious, creamy, almost like a Caesar dressing.
Yep. Yeah, I love the green goddess too. That's what I was about to say, is like that's a great way to get herbs into your diet every day without having to chop them daily onto your salad, which I do love. Like basil leaves on my salad are like my go-to. Trader Joe's has really good deal on organic basil leaves if you live in the US. But I have either some kind of pesto or the green goddess dressing always in my refrigerator. It'll last 10 days once you make it, and then that goes on my greens, and I stir that in before I add whatever I'm going to add cooked to the top of my salad. Mm-hmm. And that, I love that, Katelyn. Like the rosemary, we actually, a lot of our recipes include rosemary powder. Like I have soup recipes, and we have different cooked like onion, zucchini, mushrooms, and we encourage you guys to put rosemary powder in it. And wow, like what a difference. And you're right, it helps on so many levels. And like the ginger that you mentioned is amazing for digestion. So we really like, what we pride ourselves on as coaches, me and you, Katelyn, is that all of our recipes are really well thought out. So you'll get, like if you do our love camp, or even if you just go and check out our free recipes on the website, which we'll link to, we're really into balancing, oh, don't just eat the same food every day. Like today, add in some basil or some rosemary or thyme, or, this olive oil, or today try MCT oil, or, like different oils and different fats, or throw in a handful of, macadamia nuts into your salad dressing versus using an oil. Like, so you're switching it up and you're getting different nourishment from different foods is really important.
Yeah, and that's why we really focus our coaching programs around the change of season. So that's why we do one in January, we do one in April, we do one in July, and then one in the fall, so October, November-ish. And it's so important to bring in the seasonal part of balanced nutrition too, because our bodies are able to assimilate those nutrients during the season so much better. It just creates like the alkaline environment that you're talking about, just like this overall homeostasis in your body. So if we're eating, strawberries or tropical fruits or stuff in the winter, it's really, really a lot harder for our bodies to use that and understand it. And they're coming from miles and miles away. So the nutrients in some of those foods that aren't seasonal are much lower because they're sitting in trucks longer, they're transported longer. So that's why, like in the wintertime when we just finished our coaching program this January, we had a lot more, warming, nourishing foods like the cabbages and the more cruciferous vegetables, the things that most of us in North America at least can find right now, which
Yeah.
is it's a lot more helpful for our bodies too. And I just want to touch again on the herbs. If you live in an apartment or you can't grow your own food or anything, herbs are one of the easiest things to grow. Like we have a wheelbarrow outside, and right now it's full of cilantro and parsley. Like it is just like pooling over. And we just planted seeds like 2 months ago. They pretty much do, they grow themselves. And I do live in Arizona, so it's a little bit easier, but we still get super cold. So if you have a balcony or anything, growing some of these things yourself and not having to go and buy little things of rosemary or whatever, like buy a rosemary bush and you can have that for months on end. They don't take a lot of care. These herbs can withstand a lot of less green thumb.
Yeah, it's true. Because I thought I was never going to be good at growing herbs, but I bought a basil plant and I just have it in my windowsill in the kitchen. So it needs a lot of water. So almost daily I put water on it, and then I just pluck the leaves off as I need them. And then I did that also with cilantro and parsley. I grew my own parsley from seeds, but because it gets to be below 30 here, I just keep them in my windowsill in the kitchen, and it encourages me to use them a lot more too, because they're right there in front of me when I'm at the sink. So I think that's a really great idea. Any way that you can grow your own food is going to be ideal, especially if you're living in some place like Canada and it's really cold. And it just kind of brightens up your windowsill as well.
That's why I love the sprouts. I love that you mentioned that because I feel like those are also another superfood that can provide so much nutrition. They're fun to grow and they're super easy and they taste really good too. Like I see little things of sprouts at the grocery store that are like, $5 or $6, and you can buy a pack of seeds for less than that, and you can grow them over and over and over again. So I really
Yeah.
like that too.
And then when I walk down into my kitchen in the morning, I get so excited because, oh, my sprouts grew overnight. They're greener. Or, they start to green on their own. And like we could talk forever about sprouts, but we do have a class on that if you guys are interested in getting more into the sprouting, which I really highly recommend. So more about balanced nutrition. So the superfoods are super important, and we just touched on spirulina, and I don't want to go like forever on talking about superfoods because we have whole courses on that. But besides the medicinal mushrooms, the spirulina, there are other green powders that you can do, and you mentioned Health Force Nutritionals, Katelyn, and they have a powder that I've been using for over 20 years called Vita Mineral Green. So it's vitamins and minerals, and it's green. And that includes seaweed, spirulina, and grass powder, like wheatgrass and oatgrass and barley grass and all the grasses. And it does not contain gluten, even though it's wheatgrass. So just quickly, the grain contains gluten, but the sprout does not. And people like Katelyn who are celiacs can still enjoy wheatgrass. In fact, we've gone and like binged on it at healing centers, and you've never had a reaction. In fact, it's like a great reaction, which means you're more alkaline, you're more happy, you can pop through your any stuckness in your body by having these grass powders. So I recommend vitamin green and or spirulina. You can switch off or just buy one bottle of either vitamin green or spirulina. And then when you use that up, switch to a different one and like just try different things out.
Yeah, and these are great travel foods. I think a lot of us throw out our healthy lifestyles when we travel, and having our, like, I always travel with my green powders because I feel like in the morning, like you said, put it in your water and you start your day with something that is so quickly alkalizing. Can be a complete game changer. And these superfoods, they actually help with our blood sugar balance. They help with cravings, so you don't have sugar cravings because they're really just nourishing you on a cellular level. So keeping these things in mind for travel as well, like knowing that you have that little bit of nutrition even when you're on the road. We really love to teach our coaching clients how to do this while traveling. It's my most fun thing to
Super
do.
important. And also, like me and you both, Katelyn, are super huge lovers of green juice, like celery juice. So our keto juice, because cucumbers and even though we don't put apple, we never put apple in our juices because it's too high sugar. Once you remove the fiber from a fruit, it becomes pure sugar. So you should know that. But so even cucumbers, when you juice them, could be a little more high carb than we want. If like we're on a ketogenic diet, and for me, I don't like to go over 50 carbs a day, and like a cucumber juice can be like 15 to 20 net carbs because there's no fiber in it. So what we love is celery juice with lemon in it, and that's very low carb. But what happens when you drink something like celery juice every morning is I can feel, it's hard to explain this, but like hopefully you'll get it, but I can feel my cells getting plumper and rounder and just happier, and I feel way more hydrated than when I drink water. Of course, I still drink water, but like something about drinking 16 ounces of celery juice with a little lemon in the morning. Wow, what a way to nourish my body. I just feel nourished for the whole day. Like I got my juice in, I feel amazing. And I know you feel that way too about your green juice, Katelyn.
Yeah, I feel like if there's one takeaway and you've not, started doing the celery juice craze, just try it for a week. Like you said, the exact same thing with that little bit of lemon in it every morning for a week and just see what your digestive system does. Just see what happens to your energy levels or your cravings throughout the day. Like that, I think, is the easiest and cheapest thing that you can start doing. And honestly, your body will start craving more and more of these things. And maybe you've never tried spirulina before, and after a week of celery juice, you're going to be like, oh, I think I need that one thing. I don't. My body's never had it before, but it starts to become smarter and more in tune with what else is available. Like it's amazing.
I love that. So let's talk a little bit about intuitive eating, because, we spend years with people, like some of our love campers or now our Keto Gone Green campers have been with us for the whole 3 years that we've been doing this coaching program. We've been doing it now since 2017. So,
2016, actually. I love.
oh, okay.
Yeah,
So are we in our 4th year?
we're in our 4th year. Yeah.
Wow. So some people have been with us from the beginning, and to see their transformations is amazing. And the reason they keep coming back is because we're always adding new recipes, and you and me, Katelyn, are both always learning things that we can share. And like we said, it's more than the one pillar of balanced nutrition, and it's like the whole balance of all of it. But intuition really starts to come in for a lot of these people, and I love seeing it happen. And it happened for me. Once I cleansed my body out by eliminating gluten and eliminating sugar and ice cream and dairy products and all these things that we're talking about today, and grains and even fruit. And like if you're listening right now and you're like, what? I can't eat fruit. I just want to quickly say fruit is not in season in the winter in most places. If it is, then maybe eat that seasonal fruit like lemons or oranges. But fruit can also really raise your glycemic index if you're someone like me. So you kind of get in the habit of not eating fruit, and there's just so many amazing vegetables. Like red bell peppers are actually considered a fruit. So are tomatoes, so are cucumbers, and we love those. We're just not eating high glycemic fruits like bananas and mangoes and raisins and grapes and things that are going to spike your blood sugar. And what you'll notice is as you start to eliminate these foods, even if it's slowly, how much more clearer and better you feel. And this becomes an intuitive thing, like you said, Katelyn, like, oh, now I eliminated fruit, so I have more room for these salads that I wouldn't normally be eating, or now I'm going to make this smoothie. So I just want to talk quickly about our smoothies that we love. One of the ones we give to people in our course is called the Mesquite Magic. And instead of fruit, we put in half of an avocado. So as a ketogenic like alkaline with keto gone green person that follows that kind of program, we love fat. Fat is our friend. And because we're not eating the carbohydrates that a lot of people are eating, fat doesn't make us fat. It actually feeds our brain, which is 60% fat by weight. So we really are nourishing our bodies with fats. And the fat actually keeps our energy going, and we don't need to eat as often. We don't get hangry. Like I just did a 40-hour dry fast, and I'm on probably 60 hours of liquids because I haven't eaten solid food in a couple days. I feel amazing. I feel great because I have fat now in my body from the coffee I had this morning. So anyway, when you start doing that, you leave space for your body. If you're not drinking the beer and eating the gluten and having the fruit, oh wow, like I have some space. What do I want? Oh, wow. Whenever I have that vitamin green and water, I'm not hungry. I feel like I can go till 2 o'clock without eating lunch. I feel like more satisfied. Like you said, Katelyn, I don't crave sweets. And we find that that's a really great hack. Like these smoothies, this Mesquite Magic has things like mesquite and spirulina and coconut milk, which we make ourselves, and avocado, and a little bit of stevia if you want sweetness, and some high mineral salt, and maybe some vanilla. So all these amazing ingredients that can nourish us. And then when we start having that, we miss it when we don't have it, because now we've given our body that information, like this is what spirulina is. It's like we're supercomputers, right? So put the input in so you can feel like, what does that feel like in my body? And give it a month, like give it some time for your body to actually get through the detox and like clear out and see how these foods actually serve it. And
Mm-hmm.
I love the example of spirulina because it's something that you would be like, oh, maybe I need it, maybe I don't. But then like for you, Katelyn, once you started having it regularly, you really miss it when you're not having it.
Definitely. And we work with a lot of women with hormonal imbalances, and I was definitely one of those. And I feel like intuitive eating, that concept to hormonal women or women who have severe PCOS or severe menstrual syndrome or cysts or any sort of issue that they're dealing with, infertility, all of that, intuitive eating is like this faraway land thing. Like we become to not trust our bodies. Like it is with so many of our clients, they do not trust their intuition with food. And so once you start to clean out, like you said, and you really get to feel what that feels like, it's so possible, and it is complete freedom. And I know for me, I never thought I was going to get to this place. And as a fertile woman in her 30s, like being intuitive during my cycle too is so important, like needing different nutrients at different times in the cycle, which I could do a whole course on just that because I'm so passionate about it, because I really do feel like we are such fluctuating beings and our hormones fluctuate every few days. And so one day you could be able to fast until 2 and exercise and you have a ton of energy, and then a week later you're like, you can't do that, you're starving at 7 a.m., you have no energy to exercise, but what, I've been doing everything perfect up until this point, what the heck is wrong with me? And it's so much to do with our hormone systems. And this way of just cleaning out and clearing out helps those hormone systems balance. And then we can say, all right, well, today is, I'm not going to be fasting, and that's okay because I don't need to every single day. And maybe I am going to add in more sweet potatoes because it's right before my cycle. I know that's what my hormones need in order to, eliminate PCOS, eliminate PMS, cramps, all of that. So that part is what I really love too, is just giving women this idea that intuitive eating is so possible.
Yeah, and balance. And I love that you said that too, Katelyn, because even though I'm 54 and I'm through the whole menstrual thing, I still have days where I need to carb up, and like, because I'm now running twice a week. I'm not running that far, like 4 to 5 miles, but sometimes on those days or even the next day, I'm extra hungry and I just need to honor that. And there's days where I want to fast, like I've been doing, but now like I'm ready to nourish. And so I'm going to have probably lunch a little earlier today. And like my system is telling me it's time to be nourished. And so there's a time for fasting, and there's a time for nourishing, and there's a time for like eating a lot more carbs. And there's, finding that balance within all of it. And if you're wondering, well, how am I going to know this? Just the key is to jump in and start. Like,
Yeah.
so getting rid of these inflammatory foods and these inflammatory oils. And I noticed that we did talk about a couple oils. But I would say, just quickly, avoiding most oils except for olive oil, coconut oil. Cacao butter is considered an oil, but we don't use that often. And then things like the MCT oil. And then I'll use sesame oil, maybe in moderation, like a tiny bit of toasted sesame oil in a recipe for flavor. But my main oil is coconut oil or olive oil. And do you have any others, Caitlin, that you use regularly?
Avocado oil.
Avocado oil is awesome,
Mhm.
yes. And that actually, we don't really like to cook in oil, but that one actually can withstand a higher temperature. But you really never want to go above medium heat when you're cooking, um, on the stovetop. And then 350 for Fahrenheit for cooking in the oven, and maybe like raising it to 400 right at the end when you're doing roasted veggies or something. But try and keeping your heat low on things when oils are involved is important, because otherwise you're causing what's called AGEs, AGES, advanced glycolysis end products, which causes wrinkles and aging. So we're trying to avoid that. Yeah, so being, and then also nuts. We love macadamia nuts. You'll see that a lot in our recipes. And we love sprouted, soaked, basically not sprouted, but soaked sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds, almonds, walnuts, pecans, really most nuts and seeds. We love hemp seeds and flax seeds and chia seeds. So we make room for all of these and make room for variety, but that's where we're getting a lot of our fats are from whole sources versus like, so we do use coconut oil, avocado oil, and olive oil, but we like to get our fats from whole foods like nuts and seeds and whole avocados. And that's what you'll see like in our smoothie recipes and stuff.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. I just wanted to touch on one more thing with the intuitive eating piece, because I feel like part of the balanced nutrition is getting over the dogma of restriction diets. And we do talk a lot about this in the coaching project, our coaching program, but this is such an old paradigm. And the more we restrict, the less results that we get. And like you, Elena, even through menopause, like you still have hormones, your hormones are still fluctuating, and you still have to nourish them on a cellular level. So I do feel like a lot of the principles just, they move along all stages and ages of life, and knowing when you need to cycle out, because when we get stuck on doing one thing, maybe it's starting to restrict even more or diet even more or do these things, our metabolism can kind of get thrown off too. So we do talk a lot about just cycling out, cycling in and out, changing up the things that we're eating every day, changing up our fasting routine, doing all of this. So I just wanted to just have that as a foundation too, is it's time to get rid of the old dieting paradigm.
Yeah, and it's not about starving yourself. And we're going to talk next week about satisfaction. So we'll get more into that. But on the note of cycling, it's really like this is balanced nutrition. Keep your body guessing. So that's why I love to fast 2 days a week, and I split those days apart, like a Monday and a Thursday, because those 2 days a week I found work for me. Because other days I'm like, I'm on my run team, or I'm doing this, or I'm doing that. But also then there's days where I just know I need to eat more. And sometimes I eat at night, and like, I know for you, Caitlin, like if you eat at night, you don't sleep well. But for me, sometimes, like I think it's different for all of us.
Mhm.
Sometimes if I carb up a little bit at night, and I usually don't carb up during the day because I lose my energy. But like if it's dinner time or even after dinner and I want to have heavier carbs, I sleep really well and I wake up still feeling fine for me. So we all are going to be a little bit different. And I noticed like my hormones have, like, when I say hormones for me, it's like prickles, which is can be considered a hot flash, but it never fully goes into a hot flash for me. Or night sweats, which I used to in when my late 40s before I really hacked this was drenching the bed, and now I'm not doing any of that because I found my balance. But I'll notice, like, I rarely drink red wine, but I do have this dry farmed wine. But I'll notice if I drink more than like a quarter of a glass, which isn't even a real whole serving, the prickles come up and I get hot and I have to open my back door even if it's snowing outside. So like we can find for ourselves, and other people could drink wine and like feel great and they're like, I have no problem with it. So finding for ourselves what works. But the only way to do that is to eliminate foods, which you and I have both done in a big way, Caitlin. And then if you add it back in, like, oh, that's how, like, a lot of people have noticed this when they do elimination diets, they'll add in gluten and go, oh, I didn't think I had a problem with it, but now I notice I feel the biggest thing people report is puffy fingers or achy joints or even just grogginess or brain fog, which you didn't know you were having until you got rid of the food. And so that's why we feel like our coaching program is so important to help you eliminate. And you do need a guide. You do need hand holding, because anything I've done, like whether it's meditation practice, when I first started, I had to do Insight Timer, and it would tell me, like, it kept me accountable. Like, you missed a day, like, and it wasn't, it wasn't beating on me, but it was like, I notice when I'm not checking in regularly, I feel different. So we feel like it's really important to have people like us that have been through it that you can come to and go, oh, this is happening. Is this normal? And it keeps you accountable and on track, and other people involved. We're all in this together. I mean, we came into this life as pack animals. We're not here to do it alone and figure it out alone. And so that's why we both feel so passionate. Like, it's really my life purpose to coach and help women. And I love men too, but we find that women are attracted to what we're doing, and we are women. We have women's bodies, so we understand women's nutrition really well.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I love that piece too, because I know even, I mean, for us in business, like if we're struggling somewhere, what's the first thing we do? We find the expert that in that field, whether it be a marketing coach or something. Like, we're constantly hiring coaches, and I feel like getting over that you should know everything, or like, say you've gained a lot of weight in the last 5 years, you've had a child, anything, and what you did before isn't working. And you're like, well, I'm just going to keep trying it, keep doing it because I know what's best. But sometimes we don't. Sometimes we need to try something completely different, like something, maybe you're high carb, low fat vegan, and it's just not working anymore. Well, maybe it's time to try something else. And why not finding the expert in that can help you through it? It makes life so much easier. I don't know what I would do without some of the coaches that
I
we
do
have.
want to address that too, because so a lot of people that follow me, maybe now people on the podcast aren't as familiar with how I was 20 years ago. 22 years ago, I got into a raw vegan diet, and I was vegan for years. And it was one day I was in Santa Cruz, and I was on the phone with my boyfriend at the time, and he mentioned that I should buy him some salmon. And people had been commenting that I looked really emaciated. I was very thin at the time, but I felt good. But when he mentioned the word wild caught salmon to me, my mouth filled with saliva, and it was a very body reaction. It wasn't my mind going, no, you need to be vegan. And I was like, whoa, what is that? So I bought the salmon for him, and I ended up trying it, and I felt nourished on a whole nother level, like a cellular level. Like, I had been so depleted and deprived for like 10 years of vegan. And so if you're someone listening right now and you're on a strict vegan diet and that's working for you, great. But just please remember that your hormones need different things at different times. And I'm not saying that you need to go eat animal products, but don't beat yourself up if you get that super strong craving for something. Maybe you have some bone broth and you feel so nourished from it. And it's like, wow, like, I'm not like, cause I was craving carbs constantly. I was overeating and I was starting to gain weight. After I went through a thin period, but then after that, like, I started like, oh, and I'm bloated all the time. And I was eating the wrong foods because I was trying so hard to stay vegan. And then when I started allowing myself to have a few animal products here and there, I just felt I wasn't hungry for those. And once I got rid of the carbs and really went more keto, way more nourished, way more balanced. So I'm just giving you guys permission to follow your intuition and your guidance. And if you are, like, for us, we're really big advocates of, if you are eating animal products, like you said earlier, Katelyn, that they're grass finished beef, or that they're, local eggs, that the people that they're with the chickens, you're not buying like factory farm eggs, and that the fish is wild caught from Alaska and it's sustainable, and like that you're doing your research on things. So we're not just all out there. We don't believe in animal suffering at
Mhm.
all. And we just are eating what is called a con meat, which is a small amount here and there, and like nourishing yourself on that cellular level and finding out what you need. And maybe you're vegan most of the time, and then every once in a while you need to add in some bone broth for some nourishment or some collagen or something. And like, just be kind to yourself, be gentle, be loving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I really can't wait to see the day when diet dogma is just not a thing anymore, because I really feel like nobody on this planet loves factory farming. Who loves to see those videos? I mean, come on, nobody here is advocating for factory farming. I think we are so one-sided on, the way that diet should be. If we could just eliminate, yeah, some of these really bad practices and adding in some of these more sustainable, even agriculture practices, there's so much room for those to be more sustainable for us long term. So yeah, I'm
Yeah,
excited about that, and I love that that's part of our program too. Is just really trying to debunk these diet dogmas and know that it's not a one size fits all for your entire life. It really does change so much, and being okay with that change.
exactly. Okay, well, on that note, I think we should finish up today. And so what I love to do at the end of each podcast, Katelyn, is like we both can say one takeaway. Like if someone is listening to this and like something they could start with today to balance their nutrition, what would your recommendation be?
Well, I think I said it before, but it would definitely be the celery juice.
Celery juice. Okay,
Yeah.
great. So start with like 16 ounces, which is one head of celery.
Mhm.
You can make your own juice by blending it and using one of our amazing nut milk bags. I think we have a juice recipe on the website, so they can go there and we'll link it.
Yeah.
We have a free juicing course as well, so don't feel
Mhm.
that you're on your own. We're here to support you. And
Yes.
my one thing I would say, one takeaway is just to eliminate sugar. Like,
Mhm.
so today, start reading labels. And, that doesn't mean maybe today you have to eliminate fruit, but any kind of white sugar, like whether it's in your chocolate, like go down to 90% cacao or make your own at home with stevia. But eliminating sugar from your diet, I think that can be a huge thing. And if it sounds overwhelming to eliminate all sugar, than just white sugar. Like you can still have honey, you can still have coconut sugar, you can still have maple syrup, but just starting with something like cutting back on how much sugar is in your diet.
Mhm. And pair that with the celery juice, and that's a game changer.
When you crave sugar, drink the celery juice. That's
Yeah.
great. Great. Okay. So we want to thank you guys for joining us today. And just please remember, if you're watching this on YouTube, to subscribe and like, because the more we get of likes and comments, the more people this video reaches. And we're really here to serve humanity. And if you want other people to think like you, then this information needs to be out there. And if you're listening on the podcast, please give us a rating and review, and that really helps us as well. And if you have any questions or comments, please be sure to put them in the comment lines. And we just want you to know that we love you and we're here for you.
Mhm.
And we look forward to serving you more. So if there's something you want to hear from us, just let us know.
Perfect. Thanks so much.
Have a great week, everybody.
Bye.